Hello.
Hi. Sorry we're week late. I may have fucked it just a wee bit. I may have not done something on time. And Jen, well, you followed the rules, and I came up short, which is why this is coming out a week later than it's supposed to. Sorry about that, everyone. Jen gets a million brownie points, and you all may spit upon me. Very sorry. My wife very just loudly objected to people spitting on me, so
I love how
you have
you
to deal with
immediately
her wrath
regretted
now.
that. I love how you
Sorry.
immediately regretted the word that came out of your mouth.
I mean, I don't regret shit. It's people who gotta look out for her who gotta regret shit. I wouldn't want to mess with her. I married her so that way I can have her on my side. Love you. Anyway, let's destroy each other. Last time you saw us, we were, boy howdy, we went some places. We went to Berlin and we went to Silent Hill. We had some help. We went back and forth. We got out of there, not unscathed for sure, but now we are here. We are tied, and whoever wins this round takes the gold for the arc. And my recommendation was my favorite Disney film, my favorite Western animated picture, Treasure Planet, Disney, Musker and Clements, those fellas. And Jen recommended me Clarice. What are we doing first?
Good sportsmanship for giving me the advantage by asking me this question in the first place. But I think I'll do you a solid. I'll have a little bit of mercy on you. Let's just go ahead and get Clarice out of the way so you can stop thinking about it just a little bit sooner.
I appreciate that level of mercy, if nothing else, because it was a level of mercy that was not afforded to me by the television program. Okay, so Jen's objective here was to take something dear to me, the novels and adaptations and works of one Mr. Thomas Harris, the author of Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Hannibal, Hannibal Rising, et al., and give me the latest sort of addition into this franchise that I decisively skipped when it came out because I saw that legally they could not say the name Hannibal Lecter in the show and was like, well, that seems problematic in an adaptation of Silence of the Lambs, even though this is not really that, despite the fact that the opening credits suggest otherwise. But for those who may not know, I'm a big fucking fan. I am a fan of all three Thomas Harris novels. Red Dragon, in particular, is probably one of my three favorite novels ever written. Fantastic, sort of procedural, psychological, sort of like the fact that some of the science is a little bit outdated and it just doesn't really matter when the character writing is as strong as it is in those books. But I'm also a fan of the many different adaptations and takes on this universe. I love the Michael Mann film Manhunter, which is an adaptation of Red Dragon. I love the adaptation from Jonathan Demme, Silence of the Lambs. I absolutely love Hannibal, the television program. All three seasons of it, I think, is absolutely wonderful. I even think that the Red Dragon movie is solid. But there have been some stinkers in here. It's not like it's completely, unblemished or anything. The idea of one of these things sucking. Thankfully, Ridley Scott got to that before anybody else did. And yeah, like I like seeing this universe adapted in multiple different ways because Michael Mann, Jonathan Demme, and Brian Fuller are three very different creatives, and they have three very different versions of what this universe ends up looking like. So I guess when going at this, my inclination was just to be like, okay, what are they bringing to the table? Because truly, I don't quite view anything here as sacrosanct per se. Like I like it when people, change things up, and that's what adaptations are for. And I think that this property in general is a great example of how to do a good adaptation that Jen and I are always talking about. What makes a good adaptation? What makes a bad one? I think that this universe is ripe for the picking in terms of good examples of different ways you can adapt something. And so I was like, all right, let's see what this is. And so Clarice is a procedural about Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs. It says in the opening credits it's adapted from the book, but really it's kind of a sequel to Silence of the Lambs because it takes place post hoc. And despite the fact that they cannot legally say the name Hannibal Lecter, they really, really want people watching this show to remember that Silence of the Lambs exists. They keep reminding you over and over again, just so you know. And it's like, okay, I mean, if part of this is going to bleed into that and they're going to do some interconnectivity thing, fine. Maybe we can get some interesting character writing out of this. I don't know. Clary Starling, really interesting example of a great fictional lead. And this, if this counts as an adaptation, which I don't even know if I strictly could, this is one of the worst. I mean, I just I hated almost every moment of this top to bottom. It was astonishing how quickly I turned on it. And it was kind of like when you recommended me the live action Cowboy Bebop. And when I turned that on and I saw how long the episodes were and instantly knew that I was in for a bad time. And something similar happened here, except it had nothing to do with the episode runtimes, other than the fact that I would have preferred the show be shorter because it would have spared me some sanity. However, this time the detail that irked me was the writer and showrunner, Alex Kurtzman. So if you don't know who that is,
Yeah, what's the history with one Mr. Alex Kurtzman? He started out, he came up with Michael Bay with his buddy Roberto Orsi.
yep,
He had script credits on, let's
the
see.
Transformers films
Yeah, first
specifically.
Transformers film, first the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. He's got a writing credit on Cowboys and Aliens, which is actually a fine movie.
I mean, it's
Um,
better than a lot of the shit. I mean, but also the Amazing Spider-Man films and also the bad Star Trek sequel and fucking
his most
gosh.
notorious was the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, which
Oh,
inspired one of my favorite episodes of Half in the Bag. Just an absolute classic.
and
Where they
a
where they brought out their Jack and Jill style for the first time in years to take that movie apart. It was wonderful.
that is one of the best examples to me of a big budget Hollywood like 2010s blockbuster that is like that's like a half star movie to me. Like a worthless film. Like nobody wanted anything in it, anything about it, nothing about it worked. It was all corporate pandery schlock. It was just top to bottom reprehensible. And so like you look at this guy's output and it's like he's done nothing but fail upward. He's done absolutely a testament to the fact that a man in the industry can fail 47 times in a row and not be punished for it whatsoever. Like dude just keeps getting work over and over and over again. And like, you know, it's really just that I don't really have a bone to pick with him. It's just that I think his writing stinks. It's bad. His dialogue is bad. The plotting in his stuff is bad. Trying to lean into any franchisey things which he always tends to do always sucks. It's only like acceptable or just like something medicinal that you're willing to swallow with the rest of it if it's like Transformers and you don't give a shit about the lore, but I know there are lots of people who do give a shit about Transformers lore, so never mind. I'm not the person to speak on that, I guess. The point is, I saw that and was instantly like, all right, I'm just abandoning all hope. I'm just going to go into this, and whenever it stops, it'll stop. And I was not prepared in the slightest for how this is a Frankenstein's monster attempt at trying to combine every existing adaptational style of the Thomas Harris universe into one thing that makes it is bereft of stylistic sense. On one episode or in one scene, they will be shooting a back and forth dialogue exchange that is shot exactly like the Tak Fujimoto's cinematography in Silence of the Lambs, where it'll try to do the close-ups, except in that movie, it's all about showing a dynamic power struggle in a conversation, and this is just two close-ups of two characters talking at each other, and then it'll just completely abandon that cinematic language, and then it will directly call back to Silence of the Lambs 90,000 times, which, boy, I have a lot to say about that. And also, it sticks to the kind of pallid, sickly color tone of the Hannibal TV show and really tries to lay into the weird, abstract, psychological concepts in the same way that that show did. But oh man, it just gets everything wrong. It gets everything about this completely wrong to the point where I don't really know where to start other than Clarice herself, who is played by fucking somebody. There's like nobody notable in this show acting wise. Like I kept seeing people who looked like other people. Like I saw a dude who reminded me of Bill Tench from Mindhunter, and I was like, boy, I wish I was watching Mindhunter. Another show this show really wants the nachos of, like really fucking bad. And
I can't believe Cal Penn is in this.
that he's the most recognizable person in it. I was like, "Oh, you're here. Okay. Background character, whatever." And here's the thing is that in trying to do everything at once, it ends up fundamentally misunderstanding all of the individual stories in this franchise, namely in the fact that it is so clearly trying to ape Hannibal, like so clearly, and yet we do not have Will Graham as our main character, which is a capital P problem with this show. Because it treats Clarice as though she is Will Graham. Because it wants to do that thing where it goes into Will Graham's mind palace and he figures out how the murders happen because he's just so fucked up, bro. Except it does that with Clarice. And it's like, you already fucked it up. Dude, the reason these two characters are the protagonists of their respective novels is because they are deliberately placing you within the perspective of somebody who is essential to understanding the story that they're in. Clarice needs to be a put together, if slightly frazzled newbie who has a good head on her shoulders, but maybe is in a little bit too deep when she's working with Hannibal Lecter. But she's somebody who is still competent. She's somebody who is like ruthlessly dedicated to pursuing her job. And then there's Will Graham, who is a fucked up little freak who everybody is constantly manipulating and gaslighting because they're all trying to take advantage of the fact that he's fucking crazy. And so in this show, they make Clarice a fucking nutcase so that they could do all the weird images, which literally just amounts to them flashing back to the scenes in Silence of the Lambs, them recreating the fucking scene of the girl of Catherine, I think her name is, in like the
Yeah.
well, and then the dog. They even I knew I was cooked the moment it flashed back to that scene and it started playing the fucking Goodbye Horses song that's in the Demi movie. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, we're really doing this, huh?
Yeah, because the thing that separates this from any other adaptation of a Harris book of any kind is that this is, I mean, one, it's not an adaptation of any Harris book because
No.
this is all OC Please Don't Steal
It is
stuff.
a fan fiction sequel to Silence of the Lambs. There is no other way to put it.
And it's a fan fiction sequel not to the book, but to the movie.
Yes, very
It's really
specifically.
chasing nostalgia for the Demi movie in particular,
Oh, yes.
with Rebecca Breeds' performance especially, but also in the way that it attempts to use the iconography of the first movie, evoking the score of the first movie, the Howard Shore music,
Ugh.
recreating some of the extended sequences of this, including, and I kid you not, suit up montage of Rebecca Breeds running through the woods in a tracksuit set to the Howard Shore music to remind you that Clarice is so cool.
And another famous big thing that I love that this steals from, that it obviously wants the nachos of, actually two things, if I'm being real with you, is the television series True Detective and the television series Fargo. They even fucking go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, for fuck's sake, guys. But in aping these things, it's like it's clearly trying to lay into the Southern Gothic almost mysticism of the first season of True Detective, except, this takes place in like metropolitan Tennessee half of the time and not Louisiana. And the when it's not just aping the Howard Shore score, it's doing this weird fucking thing where it's got like this southern choir music that's supposed to be like under like this gothic thing that just
The
does
precious
not
blood of
match
the
what they're doing at
lamb.
all. What
Do
now?
you get it? The precious blood of the lamb.
Oh my God, I was
Do you
infuriated.
get
I was
it?
infuriated. I was like, because it's a lamb. Ha
In the
ha.
Midnight Mass video that we did years ago, there was a pretty funny bit where we talked about our favorite songs and the hymnals that we grew up with as
Yeah,
kids.
yeah,
And this one
yeah.
is one of my favorites, and I felt
It's good.
offended.
And well, I mean, it's just it is so immediately obvious that it's like, oh, lamb, like the name. It's poetry. It rhymes. Do you get it? And it's like, well, no, it doesn't match with the setting. And you know what? All of this stuff, it's very big picture, and I can understand why some people might not even really care about it in the context of an adaptation. Though I will say, Thomas Harris novels, typically speaking, have a pretty rounded out supporting cast. Like, Will Graham is far from the only person you're following in Red Dragon. Same thing with Clarice in Silence of the Lambs, is that you get a pretty solid bird's eye view of the process of the investigation. There's a lot of bureaucracy that Harris goes through. It's what makes it feel a little bit more real. It airs a bit closer to Mindhunter and how it is about the bureaucracy of the FBI intermingling with the investigative aspects. And maybe this is trying to hone in more on like a specific main character or something, but like, oh my God, any time that this show attempted to even try to get me to care about anyone that wasn't Clarice, who I already did not give a fuck about for a couple of reasons, frankly. But anytime somebody else showed up and they had like a scene together, I was like audibly snoring. Like there's this one fucking scene early on in this season where somebody like shows up in someone's office and they like vaguely allude to the other person like joining some form of like racial equality coalition. And this subplot does not come back. Like it's just these two characters interacting in this one moment. And he's just like, "Why didn't you show up?" And she's like, "Eh."
There's
And
there's
you're like, "What's happening?
this
Who are these
show
people?"
this show is trying to really have its cake and eat it too on its 2010s woke
Oh God.
stuff, where what it's doing is that it's emphasizing so thoroughly that Clarice is now made into a special by her brushes with Hannibal and more so Buffalo Bill. And it's also doing this thing where she has a gaggle where her whole squad is like everybody is a different race, and
Hmm.
all the people of color characters in this show have their little woke non sequitur subplot
Hmm.
where the Mexican sniper guy is dealing with his wants to do violence, and the her roommate, who we see briefly in The Silence of the Lambs, Ardelia, and another OC who's a black man, is like there's this whole subplot about joining a black coalition in the FBI or in the VICAP force. But this is handled in a way where these two characters Do not talk to anybody else about this.
No,
And
no.
so, in multiple episodes of this show, these two characters will be put in a scene together. They will talk about something that just happened and then talk about what they need to do next. And then the next scene is just that again, where it's like
Yeah.
they meet in a back room somewhere again, talk about what happened off screen at the thing that they said that they were going to go do,
Hmm.
and then say that they're going to have to go do this other thing next. And then that just never happens.
Like it's clearly aiming for this sort of ensemble that specifically Hannibal was going for, and how it kind of revamped a lot of those characters. And hell, you could probably be look at Hannibal and be like, well, that's a show that definitely tries to woke itself up a little bit, because there's a lot more gay people, there's a lot more people of color, there's a lot more this and that. Except the crazy thing is, Brian Fuller remembered to write actual human beings behind all of these things. And so I actually gave a shit about Jack Crawford and Jack Crawford's wife. I actually gave a shit about the relationship between Will and his former therapist and FBI consultant. I actually cared about the people who caught on to Hannibal's scheming a little bit too early and thus put themselves in far more danger than everybody else in the cast. There was like concrete reasons to latch onto these people. Whereas there's like people like Clarice's boss, who I swear to God, in every single scene he shows up in, he has like a different character motivation or something that he is trying to, lobby against Clarice. Like the thing is that the way
Well,
they write.
the weirdest thing, the weirdest adaptational choice is that that's Krendler who
Yes.
starts out the Hannibal book by intentionally screwing over Clarice because she won't have sex with him. And then we spend the whole season rooting for this guy to come out good on his divorce from his
Immediately
wife.
swerve into, oh, look at this sad older guy character, even though he spends like the first two episodes being like, oh, you're some fucking hot shot FBI agent. And look, I have to
He's
get this out
walking
of.
this tightrope between like attempting to use Clarice as a prop to
Yes,
make himself look good, but also sticking his neck out for her at several points. And I just do not understand this character's motivations at all.
it's because they change constantly. And it also is intrinsically linked to what I think is one of the most like this is not really what to do with like the meat of the show. This is maybe something that bothers me a little bit more than most, but like the setup to the story of this show is fucking nonsense. And I get that it's just facilitating an excuse to have a procedural, but I want you all to listen to me for a moment. This show posits that after the events of Silence of the Lambs,
This
Clarice,
is just a few months
yes,
after the
like
Silence of the Lambs.
immediately afterwards, like it opens on Clarice in therapy because of this. Because again, like Clarice after Silence of the Lambs is like rattled and everything, but she's not like damaged. Again, because she's not Will Graham. She's not psychologically frail in the way that he is. But this show needs her to be so it can do its weird, abstract, wibbly wobbly, whatever the fuck. So it's like, oh, she has like PTSD from Buffalo Bill and all of that stuff. And so it posits her as like, you're right, it makes her a special. She is immediately a celebrity in this universe. I would just like to point out, I have never in my life known the name of a single FBI agent that I was not reading a book about. I have never known the name of an FBI agent who has solved a famous case or a murder investigation. I have also never in my life expected. What happens in this show is to start the plot is that the Attorney General, not of Tennessee, but of the United States of America, grabs Clarice, who is not done training at the FBI, by the way, plucks her and is like, hey, these killings over here, they're serial killings. And Clarice is like, no, they fucking aren't. Why are you saying that they are? And she's like, I don't care. I think they're serial killings. I think you should solve it because you did one time because a guy also kind of happened to help you do it. Except he's not around anymore. He's smoke. He's vanished. Where could he be?
There's
But
two mentions. There's two allusions to Hannibal Lecter in this. One
vague.
is right at the beginning in a sentence that if it wasn't written so carefully would almost imply that Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter are the same person
Yes,
because of the
I
way that this dialogue
I would
exchange
understand
goes.
someone thinking that.
I would understand somebody getting it confused, to be
Yes,
honest. If you haven't
100%.
seen The Silence of the Lambs, I can
Hmm.
understand why you might get confused by
No,
this. And
100%.
then there's another allusion to him later where it's like, shouldn't we go after that guy that's
Guy.
fled off to Europe? And Clarice is just like, I don't think he's gonna come after me. When hmm, this is a sequel to the movie directly. When at
Hmm.
the end of the movie, Clarice is like, I don't know, Dr. Lecter. I don't think I can promise you that I'm never going to come after you. And they take that script and flip it on this, and it just doesn't make any sense because they don't want to go into it. Meanwhile, Lecter still being on the loose would be the plot of this show if they could get away with it.
Also, like, the last shot of Silence of the Lambs implies that he is about to murder Dr. Chilton, which Clarice would no doubt be aware of happening and would probably make her go like, maybe I should go looking for this motherfucker. Just saying. But like, even if
With
he
this being a canonical sequel to the movie, it just implies that she gave Lecter Chilton as a freebie so that they could both move on with their lives.
Either way, if you want to skew this as a canon sequel to Silence of the Lambs, which this show visually will not let you forget, the moth motifs are still fucking everywhere, even though Buffalo Bill is not a central player in this story. So why are we repeating the imagery over and over again? That was like, it again, infuriating, kind of, but also just in a procedural sense. Clarice Starling becoming this fledgling celebrity FBI agent who is being tossed into this team for simultaneously because the AG wants her to because she is the mother of the girl that Clarice saved in the previous film and wants her to be on the case, but also because the people on the team are like, you're here for PR purposes so that the media can see. Even though I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just don't believe in either of these reasons. Like, this is not convincing me that, and it's like, guys, just have her go into the field. Just cut forward a little bit in time because this show clearly focuses on its own original plot by the time that like the third episode rolls around so steadfastly that I just don't know why they didn't abandon it altogether. And once they more or less do, I am confronted with a very interesting query. Why the fuck would someone who is interested in the Thomas Harris expanded universe be interested in watching this show? Because Clarice, the case that we're following here, cases that really just kind of string together at the last minute, they're not interesting, cool psychological serial killer things. At first, it's not even really a serial killing. It's like an investigative thing about like whether or not these several whistleblowers for this corporation were murdered and whether or not it was a cover up or whether or not it was a serial killing. And it's like, okay, I guess that could be something, but we just kind of keep delving further into this like pharmaceutical company rabbit hole and then we go
Oh God.
and it's like, guys, this is not what I watch or read these for. Like, where is the weird psychological shit? Where's the weird power dynamics between characters and the constantly shifting sense of control that these people have over each other? Because that's what it's about. It's about how these people can subtly manipulate one another. It's why every sort of interaction between Will and Hannibal in the TV show is a power struggle. It's something that you're witnessing and you're just like, how are they going to visually convey the struggle that's happening between these two people? Because they just have to sort of display them as talking to each other, but they have to shoot it and edit it in a way that implies something distinct. And here, that attention to detail is just not present. Like the actual filmmaking of this is boring as all sin. I can't even really call it bad. It's just got an ugly color palette, inconsistent cinematography that attempts to ape Tak Fujimoto maybe 10% of the time, but even when it does, it doesn't do it with the amount of intentionality that his camera works with. So, whatever. And it's like, yeah, sure, I guess this isn't a fair comparison, but it's like you have three of the most accomplished stylists in their respective medium, Demi, Fuller, Mann, and they're all making these things like the biggest versions of themselves and the most stylish versions of themselves. It's like Demi's the guy who did the fucking Talking Heads concert movie. Fucking Michael Mann's the Heat guy. And these movies look incredible. And Hannibal as a show looks incredible. And this is just, it looks like fucking sludge. It just
This
looks like
looks like
anything.
Tuesday night on CBS at 8,
And when
which
you
is what
tune
it
into it,
was.
you tune into it and you don't even get like fucking like for example, the sort of default example of what I would compare this to is a show like Criminal Minds. And like Criminal Minds is like this, it has the formula down to a T, and it understands how to execute that formula. And it has an interesting cast of characters and like an interesting grip on melodrama, whereas this is just trying to juggle so much. It's trying to have this overarching plot that's going to feed back into involving Clarice and the AG's daughter and this other person who drugs Clarice and like tries to hide her from the FBI, and like it all has to link back into Hannibal somehow, even though it's not really, or
It
Buffalo Bill,
doesn't.
and it doesn't really. And it kind of leads you to believe that it might, or that maybe Clarice is just crazy and hallucinate. And it's like it doesn't mean anything. None of these things develop or mean anything. And all I could end up focusing on was just the shit that they were getting wrong. And like, I guess the one compliment I'll give is that like sometimes the acting is okay, but man, the dialogue in this is horrible. The first interaction between the Attorney General and Clarice, like seriously, go and track this episode down. I want you all to look at this dialogue exchange and tell me if you think that's how human beings talk to each other. It is forward-facing exposition that does nothing but like, hey, I'm talking to the audience right now so that you understand the plotting of this show. And it's just, it's not immersive. It doesn't make me believe that these are real people. It's just like, I am the Attorney General and I have called you down here to solve this serial killing. This is not a serial killing. But it is actually. And you're like,
It's that way from the very beginning, where like what the therapist is saying to Clarice in the very first lines of dialogue in the show are just recapping the plot for
yeah,
you so that you know where the story is starting. It's
it's
so
dry.
functional, like
Yeah.
stinks. It stinks of function.
I mean, like it's overused to say something like written like by Chat GPT, but it gives the impression that a human being or someone who only approximates a human being did not write this at all. It is strictly to segue from one scene to the next. I was not captivated by a single line of dialogue in this. And that's something that they have changed a lot. Like the conversations and dialogue in the novels is very natural. It's very two people having a conversation, very normal. And more or less, it's a little bit more melodramatic in something like Silence. It's a little bit more by the basics in something like Manhunter. And in Hannibal, everyone speaks prosaically. Everyone's got a monologue. It's a little bit, it's a bit highfalutin, but like that's part of the presentation and fun of the show is that it elevates its tone to be super melodramatic and really kind of lay into it. Whereas this is just like, I don't know, it's like it wants to be this kind of cut and dry procedural, and it just kind of, its lack of ambition isn't its problem. Its lack of understanding what makes this formula interesting to begin with. I've been watching procedural crime shows since I was like a small child, in case you were wondering what the fuck is wrong with my brain. But I know what makes these things work. I know what makes them compelling, and none of the things that make a show like this compelling are present within Clarice. It doesn't take any like weird swings. Like Hannibal season 3 is a fucking bizarre series of television. Like I can't believe to this day that that aired on primetime TV. That's crazy. The level of violence, the gore, just weird gay shit that's all over that show is like, it's so weird and indulgent and awesome. And this is just like, yeah, man, what I really wanted, I didn't want to see like the depths of the human mind or anything, or like the criminal condition or whatever, or see a bunch of weird, fucked up guys do weird, fucked up shit. I wanted to see Clarice Starling have like a little bit of a headache and be like, oh, I'm gonna determine, I'm gonna will Graham solve this crime scene. And that is to me the biggest failure of the show is that it takes Silence of the Lambs, which is one of the definitive feminist texts in film to me, because it is able to be about, well, a woman in the workplace the way that it is without ever once explicitly talking about this. In fact, it does this in one shot. In the beginning of Silence of the Lambs, there's that one shot where Clarice walks into the FBI building and she walks into the elevator, and there's like 14 sharply dressed men all standing there being like, oh, and she just walks in there and has to stand in the middle and is like, and it's like that shot communicates everything. It's like, this is a man's world. She doesn't feel like she belongs here. Perfect. You have illustrated to me visually what you are going to be repeating. You have that weird interaction between that fucking moth scientist and her that really creeps her out, but she has to put on a brave face because she has to keep doing the investigation. It's subtle, it's smart, it's good. In this, they just fem Will Graham her. No nuance, no anything.
And they
She's
also have
just
people
crazy.
and they also have people constantly talking about how badly Clarice is getting treated by everyone around her.
And it's
Uh,
like, it's kind of obnoxious at some point. You're just kind of like, will you all give it a rest? Like, part of the reason why I like Hannibal so much is that all of those characters in that first season are like, God, I love Will so much and I care so much about Will, but like, he's unstable and I don't know if I can trust that he's not involved in these cases or something. And there's like a real, like, tangible, like, oh, these people really care. And in this, it's just like there'll be like a quiet moment where they'll like give them a nod at the end of like a conflict or a conversation. And I'm like, this isn't interesting. These dynamics are flat. I don't care about anyone here. And this plot goes nowhere. You could have taken the weird, indulgent route and you could have just made this really over the top and strange. And frankly, even if it sucked, it would have been a swing. Or you could have committed wholly to just doing a procedural starring Clarice Starling, and you didn't even really do that either. You
yeah, because
fucked that up.
the interesting thing about this is that episode to episode, it's oscillating between this pharmaceutical company conspiracy A plot
Yawn.
with occasional attempts at what if Clarice was at Waco. They do that like two or three
Oh, fucking
times.
hell. God, that episode was tedious as fuck. It was just
They do
like,
it like
oh
two or
yeah,
three
let's get
times.
this
One,
fucking academy trainee and have her handle an entire hostage situation with a Waco style showdown. What the fuck are you all thinking?
yeah, one they explicitly compare it to Waco, but there are others that are just like, oh, we're trying to do another Waco homage, put Clarice in Waco, see what happens type stuff. But the pharmaceutical conspiracy stuff, I have no idea where that came from.
Yawn.
Who thought this was a good idea? Because the
Oh,
thing is that it tries to build to this culminating arc where you have this character, Nils Hagen, who's the head of this pharmaceutical
oh, it
company who's
sucks.
got this Caesar complex about himself, who's very regal and very formal, and he's spooky because he uses an oxygen mask every now and then, and he talks like this, and he's very stern and formal and normal. And there's the one like gross out moment of gore in this show that actually got to me, where just like he's keeping all these fetuses of these children in jars, and they
Yeah.
end up throwing him through it and they go all over the room. I'm like, okay, you thought of one macabre image, and it's in the last episode of the
Which
show.
they took for Manhunter, but you
Yeah, which they
know,
really took from
it's
Manhunter.
fine. It's and it's like and there's the stuff with that fucking dude's lawyer turning out to be like this
Oh yeah,
duplicitous.
Crenler's divorce lawyer turning out to be a
Which
weirdo.
just like frankly, look, Hannibal could be a little out there sometimes with some of the turns that it took, but again, it was in concert with the tone. That, on the other hand, was just like, are you fucking kidding me, man? Like, what are we even doing anymore? This is just like a, oh my God, the guy you recognize as a secret bad guy. Whoa. And it's like, this isn't doing anything for me, man. This is just, it is such an astounding categorical failure that my only theory about why this ended up being the way that it was, this had to have been just this unaired, like, spec script that they had for a procedural that they didn't know what to do with, that they retrofit with like little bits and pieces of Silence of the Lambs. Because like it doesn't feel like these things to such an extent that I can't square it. I can't skew why so many of these decisions are made unless they are made in the context of trying to fit something that isn't Silence of the Lambs into a Silence of the Lambs shaped hole and failing really, really badly. It's the fucking like the circle goes in the square hole. The triangle goes in the square hole. The circle goes in the square hole. Everything goes in the square hole. There is no escape.
It's really just a failure to launch altogether because there's nothing about this that is even capable of hooking you in.
I really do hate to say this as soon as I brought up this concept, specifically in it being referenced to a category of media that's quite rare. But like, there is no other place I can put this but the Silent Abyss.
Is
This
it,
is
is this the
this
Silent
is
Abyss?
this is the epitome of content. It is like that's what Alex Kurtzman does. He cranks out content. And that's the nicest thing I can say about Clarice is that it is successful at making you spend time. That is the saddest compliment I have ever given in my life. God, fuck.
It's a fascinatingly bad show.
It is, but I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt that if you didn't assign it to me, I would have dropped it in 3 episodes and not looked back. Like I
Oh
just,
yeah, I had no idea how I was gonna will myself to finish this by like episode 3 or 4, which
it's
don't even
it
you
is
know it's over.
exhausting.
You know it's over when some of the episodes of the show don't even have a Wikipedia summary.
Oh, that's sad. Oh, like I remember when I was just like, I'm guessing this is 10 episodes, and then Rhiannon and I checked to find that it was 13. We were like, oh God. Like it was just like again, I've had to watch and do things that took like Death Stranding took me a hell of a lot longer than this did, but fuck, man, like it feels like the time was dilated differently. Like I had legitimate trouble sitting through this. Like it was exactly like Ghostbusters, except it was 10 hours long.
I think the worst episode though is the one where she goes to see Buffalo Bill's mom.
Oh, ugh.
Because that's the
Sucks.
that's the one
Sucks.
in an interesting critical point of failure. That's the one that offers the most lore slop, but is somehow the most boring episode of the whole thing.
God, between like the lore slop, the adaptational thing, the close tie it has to me, this really does feel like the final boss of your recommendations. It like embodies every single bad recommendation you've ever given me and just wraps it up in this neat little bow of anonymous sludge.
It
Like,
does this thing during that episode, especially, and here's where the anonymous sludge comes in, where they're talking so much about Clarice's dad, but they never actually say what happens to
no.
Clarice's dad in this. They never say what happened to Clarice's father, which she ends up telling Hannibal Lecter, but she doesn't tell anybody else, which is the big like crux of their relationship is that she reveals that to him. But it's never brought up in this in explicit detail. And so I wrote down at one point, are they going to do some kind of twist that she was molested by her dad or something?
Oh.
Like, because they go
No,
so
you're
vague, they go so vague in how they treat it that I really thought they were going to try to take a big swing with
No, you're right.
another secret memory. Because they're doing all this stuff where they're putting her under hypnosis and having her undergo these secret memories of her being tortured by these people that are
And
working for the
uh,
pharmaceutical company. And so I'm like, is it going to be a twist that she suppressed memories of being molested by her dad? And they don't even do that. They never revisit these suppressed memories of her father.
man, as soon as they do like, oh, you're gonna do hypnotherapy, I was just like, oh God, here we go. The lore slop's gonna be aplenty in this one because what excuse do you have to do other than to throw in a bunch of the thing you know? Did you remember thing that you know? Do you remember moths? Do you remember the moths? I'll make you remember the fucking moths.
This show is awful.
It's I when you recommended it to me, I was just like, God, what an odd choice for the final round. Like, you must truly be confident in this, but like, I never heard anything that bad about it. And then I'm sitting here at the end wondering, like, y'all should have been harder on this. Like, mid is a vast over, like, you are being unkind to things I would consider mid by calling this mid. Like, if this is what you consider mid, you need to up your fucking standards.
That's the thing about TV is that we say this a lot where like, the worst thing that you've ever seen is actually not that bad. But with TV, just because of what it takes to make a TV show, the low bar is actually much higher than with
Hmm.
other mediums.
I would say
And I can
so.
pretty confidently say this is one of the worst seasons of television I've ever watched.
Oh, for sure. I genuinely struggle to think of a season of TV that I've sat like all the way through that I would call like genuinely worse. Like I would have to dive deep back into like late seasons of Heroes from like 15 years ago to get to this level of bad. And even then, it's like those at minimum contained choices that I liked or thought were interesting. This is bereft of choices. Like it is it is the fucking television show equivalent of signing a document with an auto pen. Like I have nothing here. Absolutely nothing to work with. And also, like, why, whenever we recast Clarice as someone, why do we just try to do the Jodie Foster accent? Like, every single person who's done this has done the exact same thing of trying to mimic that specific voice, and they never can. Julianne Moore couldn't. This lady can't. Don't just if you can't do the Midwestern accent, just fucking toss it. Just don't do it. You don't need it. Like whatever. Like you clearly do not care about adaptational honesty. So the fact that Clarice is like some corn-fed Midwestern girl, that doesn't like sure leave it behind. Who fucking cares? Do you clearly the other details didn't matter enough for you to preserve them.
Yeah, and like not to be that person, but it's insane to me that this went forward with the Hannibal legalese at all.
I mean, truly, they were just banking on brand association to carry them into the night. But thankfully, this did not get renewed for a second season. Thank God, because, like, what do you even do? Like, seriously, what do you do?
It ends on this cliffhanger where she's gonna go back home and talk to her mom, and I'm just like, what could this possibly
I don't
lead
fucking
to?
care about Clarice Starling's mom. I don't. Why would I? It's fucking,
Clarice Starling doesn't have mommy issues.
yeah,
What's wrong
fucking,
with
she's
you?
defined by having daddy issues. Mm. I just I don't know, man. Like we live in such a strange time with like the kind of quasi deification of serial killers and serial killings that like the
And of victimization. That's the grossest thing about this show
oh,
is that it is
absolutely.
it is reverent of the idea of victimization in a way that's trying to say something about like systems of power,
Yes.
especially when we get into the last few episodes with Nils Hagen and a subplot involving his illegitimate son, who's played by the kid from the Bye Bye Man. Uh,
Oh my God. I
that
forgot
was
about
such a neat surprise that he showed up in this. He also
oh
plays
my God.
he also, and this is nerd stuff that only I can possibly pull out. He plays Percy Jackson's half-brother Tyson in the Sea of Monsters movie from back in the day. And his character name in this is
Wow.
Tyson.
Wow. Okay. Jesus Christ. Like the
But this is
victimization
the kind of
thing
stuff that I have to talk about when I'm dealing with something that's this empty.
bereft. Like you touched on the victimization point, and I think that that's an interesting thing because like I find the way that The Silence of the Lambs, the film, treats corpses to be very interesting. It shoots dead bodies like it shoots paperweights. Bodies in Silence of the Lambs, corpses, are objects. They are entirely depersonalized, and it makes it way scarier. You're like, oh, that person who is not alive anymore, that like the humanness of them is gone. It was stolen from them. And you're like, it makes you feel really uncomfortable and it makes you feel like icky and gross. And then this is just like, whoa, what if it was weird? And it's not even doing like it's not even like committing to it with like the Brian Fuller thing of just being like, yeah, it's kind of like deifying the serial killings, but in a way that's
There's
like,
one where they really swing for like creative gore with
mm,
the episode about the teenagers shoved in the wall.
yeah. And it's
Because they're
like,
really lingering on that corpse and just being like, can you believe that somebody would do this?
and that's the thing is that when that happened in Hannibal, and it happens a lot, mind you, where it's like, whoa, look at this fucked up thing. It's really more of like, it's not because of its horror, it's because of its creativity. It's like those parts in Hannibal, it's like it treats serial killings like art as a theme of that show, and therefore it shows it to you like art, and it shows you the methodology and it shows you the kind of just like the work that was put into it and just the meaning behind it and all of that. It's doing something with it. Here it's just like they're dead, I
Isn't
guess.
this crazy?
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like they really died, and it's like, oh, okay. Like it just there's nothing to be said about something like this because I don't think that the people in the writers' room had something to say. What they had to say was, let's appease the investors a bit and make something with a recognizable brand name and just call it, I don't know, Clarice. That way people will know it's Silence of the Lambs without us having to tack on the title. It's just, it is a cheap, flimsy excuse to staple a name onto it and then have something that looks like Clarice Starling and kind of behaves like her. And sure, that'll pass for making it a Hannibal-esque TV show, I guess. And it's got nothing. It's there. You have to have something as your hook beyond just
It's
representing a
Clarice.
franchise. Yeah, it's like, okay, but what are you doing with her? Like, what is the take here? Like, because we've had different versions of this story and these stories, we need an angle. Because just a straight-laced, like, we need more than this. And I kind of feel bad because it feels like it robs the world of somebody else's chance to do something cool. It's like, I don't know, fucking like somebody cool like Jordan Peele could showrun a season of something like this, and it could be a really interesting take on the material, and it would be different from all the other things. And I would love to see what it looks like. I want to see the Thomas Harris universe be used like Evil Dead, where new creatives get to come up and use that to do something cool and just kind of retrofit it in a way that, they get to kind of suit their own tastes and take it where they want to go. But no, this is just whatever. I like, if you'd made me watch Hannibal Rising, I would have had a better time. I have no doubt. That seems like the kind of bad that's at least notable, that's at least like fun in some way. This
Yeah, and
is,
I honestly did teeter back and forth. I knew I wanted to do one of them. And I think the thing that made me latch onto this is, well, I thought, okay, this is the only thing that we have that's not related to Harris at all, but is adapting his work, right?
mm.
Because it's not based on any of the books. So what do you do? Like, I'm curious. I was genuinely curious walking into this. What do you do if you can't adapt any of these books and it has to be set between Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal? Like, that's an interesting question. Sadly, I do not have an interesting answer for you based on this.
And the worst thing about it too is that it's just like, dabble in some fucking fan fiction. You can find somebody doing something like this and doing it better on the internet for free. You just can. It's easy. It's incredibly fucking easy. So like I don't know, man. I just this was soul sucking. I it was the perfect storm of everything I hate about like modern media, like on the level of like the C-suite suits and just like execution and what have you. And it's just like I think the worst part about it was seeing that this got like middling reviews. It was like, middle of the road. And I'm just like, guys, no. Like, this is the level of TV that I would expect from like the people who would make like the Hawaii Five-0 television show. Like, this is borderline, if not outright, just fucking boomer slop, but
I
with a
was gonna
total.
say I watched a few episodes of this other recent cop show that Drew Goddard created called High Potential that stars D from It's Sunny. Uh,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
the whole bit is that like she's got a high IQ and she knows a lot of dumb facts and that helps her solve crimes. And so
Very 2010s, very The
yeah, a
Mentalist.
little bit it's very 2010s. It's a little bit BBC Sherlock coded, but I sit down and watch an episode of that show and I'm like, I see them being able to successfully tell a story, even if it's like rote and
Yeah.
predictable. It's still giving the people what they want. Nobody wanted this.
No, this was sent
Nobody
out to
wants
slaughter.
this.
This was sent out to slaughter, and frankly, it's just like I tried to think of something about it that I didn't dislike on some level, and I really got nothing. Like cast, technicals, adaptationally, any way I can categorize this? Nah.
There's like, ooh, ooh.
It may not be the worst thing, but it might be the least thing.
Is it the least good thing that we've talked about? I don't
Does
think
it
that's even
does it
true,
contain
actually.
does it contain the least good? It
Is it
might.
worse than Ghostbusters?
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't
Well,
say is
okay.
it worse than Ghostbusters? Does it have less to appreciate
I
than
I
Ghostbusters?
here's what I'll say is that first of all, Ghostbusters is a lot shorter. Secondly, I am not precious about Ghostbusters. I'm a little precious about Thomas Harris. Therefore, I think its sins are greater. So that might be the new bottom of the barrel, frankly. So kudos.
I did good. I gotta pat myself on the back. I did good with these last couple picks.
Hanging
Because
swangin'.
I'm looking at the score. I've got three fives in a row. Hell
Woo,
yeah, man.
woo. Oh man. All right. Let's fucking Can we talk
On a
about something that
happy,
has color, for
yeah,
God's sake?
man. On a
Fuck.
happier note, so Jake's pick for this week was a movie that I've never seen, surprisingly. Treasure Planet, the 2002 Musker and Clements film. Now, I've known about the existence of Treasure Planet for decades, as anybody has, but especially just because I watched a lot of Disney XD when I was a kid, and they were
Oh
playing
yeah.
that movie like once a fortnight. Treasure Planet was on, and I never actually sat down and watched all of it when I was a kid because I don't know. This is okay. We talked about this before when we talked about Tron. So I just want to go ahead and latch this thread on here, where this is one of like Disney's odd duck sci-fi movies for boys.
Yeah.
And the thing that made that interesting is that it's made by Musker and Clemens, the guys who are practically responsible for the entire Renaissance era of Disney. And they talked about they had wanted to make this movie ever since they were working on The Little Mermaid, and they pitched
Yep.
it to Michael Eisner at the same time in the infamous Gong Show meeting where they pitched like five or six different movies to Eisner, and almost all of them got made immediately, except for this one. And so these guys spent years campaigning. It's like, okay, we made The Little Mermaid. Can we make Treasure Planet now? And then getting told no. And then they go, we made blah blah, because what did they make after Little
Aladdin?
Mermaid? Aladdin. What's the order? Let me find it real quick.
It's let's
They
see. It
made
was Great
Aladdin,
Great
and they
Mouse
were like,
Detective, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hercules.
yeah, it was they made Aladdin. They were like, okay, now we can make Treasure Planet. No,
No,
we made Hercules. Now can we make Treasure Planet?
no.
Okay, fine. At best, they got an okay fine from Michael Eisner because the thing that I think is interesting about Treasure Planet is that it very clearly did not have the full weight of the machine behind it from the
Oh
jump
yeah.
because the concepts that they had for this movie were constantly like getting whittled down to the point where notoriously the production note that they went with for the movie was that it had to be 70% normal and 30% sci-fi. And I use normal very because like that's the word that they used.
Whatever
Um
you guys say.
and so Treasure Planet is an interesting picture because it was a flop at the time and it admittedly does not have the full Musker Clements formula behind it
No.
because this is not a musical
Nope.
either.
Nope.
But what that gives it is that this is an attempt to make this science fiction adaptation of Treasure Island that was initially wanting to be so faithful that it was pitched as Treasure Island in Space being the title of the movie.
Which I mean, it gets the point across, I guess.
Yeah, it gets the point across. And I mean, it is. We have the names of all the characters, and Treasure Island is one of my favorite books.
Me too.
I love Robert Louis Stevenson's work.
Yes.
I love Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes.
I love Treasure Island. I want to read some of his later stuff that he wrote because like
Me
Robert Louis
too. I
Stevenson
should.
is secretly like one of the coolest dudes to ever live
Yeah,
because
honestly, like his shit is awesome and his story is awesome. I would highly recommend just looking into like take an afternoon and like watch a YouTube video or just like read some of his shit. Even like Treasure Island is not exactly a difficult novel to get through, and I would say that that's like a benchmark in fiction for me because it was like one of the like honestly just Robert Louis Stevenson in general is really great at writing really thorny relationships between men. And it's like in a way that makes him stand out from a lot of people of his ilk. Because I feel like a lot of authors kind of from, his era or from that time, or at least who dealt in the same kind of fiction that he did, they were a lot about, embodying archetypes. They were a lot about, stuff that was a lot more straight-laced than his stuff, which was a little bit more complicated. There was always something that was thrown into the character dynamics that makes everything a little bit more interesting, particularly when it comes to the realm of the character of Silver, who is also in Treasure Planet, thankfully, because he is probably my favorite part of Treasure Island.
imagine you can't use Lon John Silver because somebody owns the copyright to the
God,
character of John Silver.
God, that we can't name him this because of the like most mediocre fast food chain of all time. Sorry. Oh man.
I mean, if you don't know the premise of Treasure Island or by extension Treasure Planet, you've got Jim Hawkins, who's this young, every boy wannabe adventurer who stumbles upon a treasure map to the lost, supposedly not even real treasure of this pirate. Because what do they call him in this? They change his name in this.
They
Uh,
do. It's oh shit, it might not be credited.
Captain Flint, excuse me.
Flint.
Yes,
Okay.
this guy, Captain Flint, he had a bunch of treasure that he stashed away somewhere, and Jim Hawkins finds a map when the pirate Billy Bones crashes in, and God, to just go ahead and start talking about Treasure Planet. The first like 15 minutes of this movie,
Mm,
absolute peak
cinema.
science fiction. And
Cinema.
I love the aesthetic contrast because it starts with this great little opening scene of Jim flying around on this rocket skateboard thing,
Oh,
just kind of
yes.
being a loner, and it's really cool. And then I love the character design of Billy Bones because I love the weird. anthropomorphic characters in this movie, which they really did not have
Everyone
to
in this
do.
movie is kind of a freak except for Jim, and I love it.
They really didn't have to do the anthropomorphic characters to make a movie like this work. And even that's a thing that would risk really getting on my nerves. But they don't emphasize anybody's animal qualities too strongly.
Nah.
And that gives the movie more of a seriousness in its tone that really works when you've got Billy Bones. You've got this great close-up of him whispering in Jim's ear,
Ugh.
"Beware the cyborg." And oh, it's so good.
There's so many like villainous characters in this movie. Like Michael Wincott actually voices like the one with like the crab hand Scroop. I love the voice that he's got for that. He sounds like fucking like Tom Waits, but like on ketamine, and he's just like, "Eh." He's got this like just disgusting little rasp in his voice, and everybody's just kind of a weird little freak. Like even Emma Thompson plays like this weird feline alien thing who's just like really cool looking and like this like badass who does all of this stuff. And then there's also like David Hyde Pierce who plays the kind of sidekick doctor character who also kind of grows up as a quasi father figure to Jim, but not really, which is why Jim latches on to Silver as a more definitive father figure later. And there's also the mom that's played by Laurie Metcalf, where I was just like, oh my God, it's Lady Bird's mom. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Uh,
this cast is stacked between
it's
like
pretty
Emma
fucking great.
Thompson, David Hyde Pierce, Michael Wincott,
Joseph
Laurie
Gordon-Levitt, Ryan
Metcalf.
Murray.
All great choices. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the lead.
Yeah,
Fantastic choice. I
he's
love him
great.
in this role.
Oh yeah.
His performance really rides the tonal line that this movie is straddling between like young swashbuckling adventurer and also like already world weary teenager that he is. Is
Yep.
that's what I find most fascinating about Jim as a Disney protagonist, because that's where I think it's interesting to talk about Treasure Planet is that it's a good sci-fi movie, but it's a weird Disney movie
Oh,
in a
for
lot
sure.
of respects, which makes it weird to talk about amongst the ilk of not just Musker and Clemence's filmography, but like the entire Disney
Disney
catalog,
canon.
because none of their like sci-fi movie for boys swings really went in this direction where it's like, oh, we're gonna adapt this classic novel, but also change its genre, but also be as faithful to it as we can by
Hmm.
sticking to the swashbuckling pirate influences and doing this kind of solar punk thing where they're on pirate ships that fly and we don't have to worry about oxygen, but they make a point that there's artificial gravity. There's all these weird, like, playing
World
with
building shit.
sci-fi. Yeah, playing with sci-fi fantasy rules that give this movie a really unique aesthetic that really nothing else has. It actually reminded me a lot of No Man's Sky, but even more like swashbuckling in its
Yeah.
aesthetic, where like you still have spaceships that look like real spaceships and aliens that look like aliens in that game, but
Oh
it
yeah.
has this, that game has the tone of the exploration being key and the idea of finding yourself in the exploration being such a thematic core of what makes that game's story work. And this has that as well, where it's like this is a bildungsroman
Hmm.
of a movie.
Hmm.
What made this, what makes this special for you? Because this
Okay.
is your favorite, right?
Yes.
I
And I
described
think
Tron Legacy as possibly my favorite Disney film ever made. What makes
and
this yours definitively?
I would say that this is totally my equivalent of Tron Legacy, just like for the purpose of this show. Because I mean, I'll illuminate as to why, because I kind of hinted that I had a bit of a history with this movie, and I saw it in theaters when it came out. I grew up in the era of where like my mom worked at a bed and breakfast to when we lived with my grandparents when I was very very young, so I very rarely saw her. So I would just kind of hang out in my grandparents' basement and just constantly drip feed myself VHS tapes. That was basically all I did and play with Legos. And naturally, I got very well acquainted with many, many Disney movies, many of them, all of the Musker and Clements ones. But Treasure Planet was a new one, and I got to see that when it came out. And I remember so distinctly, I was like, it was right around this time, like Pirates were just the coolest fucking thing ever when I was a kid. Like, I don't know if that was a me specific thing or if it had to do with the media coming out at the time. Like, Pirates of the Caribbean, there was also that animated Sinbad movie that was really fucking cool, who had that awesome villain character thing that I remember. And I just was like, man, pirates are fucking awesome. So I wanted to see Treasure Planet because I thought pirates were cool. And naturally, I saw the movie, and because I had also grown up watching things like Atlantis, another sort of redheaded stepchild Disney animated movie that I just loved the aesthetic of so much, and still to this day do. Like, Atlantis definitely
Atlantis holds
not.
up. I watched that movie recently and it holds
Yes,
up.
I think I watched it a couple of months ago, but like it held up more than I thought it would. And not to mention I just love like the various different characters and cast and everything. And it kind of feels like Treasure Planet sort of took all the things that I wanted to be fulfilled out of something like Atlantis and then kind of took them to their logical extreme. But I saw it afterwards and I was like, "Oh man, that was awesome." And so my mom took me to like a store that was by the movie theater afterwards. And what I did is that I asked to buy this movie's soundtrack on CD. I don't know why I did this. I didn't listen to CDs. I knew I had a CD player, but I was just like, I just want this just because I remembered the music being really cool. And I mean, I was right. The music in this is really fucking cool. And so I ended up getting that, and I would play it on my little like stereo boombox thing that I had as a kid. And then my mom was like, "Hey, do you want to listen to that on like headphones?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And that was how I got a Walkman for the first time, like just something that played music. And I listened to that CD fucking endlessly. Both of the John Rzeznik songs were on there, the entire score was on there, and that is the moment I fell in love with music. I had never really considered it as something that I liked before. I had never really like latched onto it as a thing that could be isolated and enjoyed on its own. It was just like this thing that happened when I was in the car sometimes or out at the grocery store, something would be playing. But it was like, oh, this is something I can seek out because like I have always loved adventure shit. I've always loved like Lost World shit. You know, I grew up watching things like Jurassic Park or, well, stuff like this, stuff like Atlantis, the works of Robert Louis Stevenson once I was old enough to read and stuff like that. I loved that shit. It was fully, it was just this level of escapism that I adored. And I mean, like, I still love these things to this very day. And it sort of just ballooned from there. Like it captured the essence of adventure so fucking well that I was just like, I need this in my life. And then that eventually led me to getting an MP3 player, getting all the songs on there, and then basically just snowballing into my very interest in music on the whole. But then revisiting the movie several times, I was just like, man, this is like everything I love about stories like this condensed into a neutron star of Disney animation. Like, I love the aesthetic of this movie so fucking much. I love the style of it. I love the character designs. I love how weird and ugly they are often. They're
I love
asymmetrical
John
and
Silver's design.
oh my God, it's one of the best.
I
It's
was I was not prepared for how
the little eye that
instantly
goes everywhere. Oh,
just like every detail of his character drew me in. It's a perfect character introduction that's held with such gravitas. It's so
the
great.
shadow, and he's got this looming presence about him. And like, if I'm being perfectly honest, John Silver is the movie to me. It is my favorite thing about this. It's Silver and Jim and their relationship is the thing about it, is because that's the thing you need to nail with an adaptation of Treasure Island, is the dynamic between these two, and that you need to illustrate the fact that the bond that forms between them is completely genuine. And also, like, the one thing I loved about this revisiting it was how utterly obvious Silver is the villain of this story from like the jump. In fact, I would say that it is a stretch to say that Jim, the entire time, does not know that guy who came for Billy Bones is Silver. He is just so desperate to have a father figure in his life because of the hole left by his actual father that he will fill it with anything that he's able to. And Silver is able to do that and is able to care about him just enough for their dynamic to be like to hold water. And Jim is like, even throughout their montage, it's like he knows. He knows
Oh
the
yeah.
whole
In that
time.
in that first dialogue scene between them, you can tell that Jim knows.
Yes, he is
Or at
just
least if he
so in
doesn't
denial.
know, if he doesn't know, he's incredibly suspicious and knows how to be careful about it because there's that one because he's saying one thing and doing another with his facial expression because he's
Hmm.
really trying to study Silver's reaction to him saying the name Bones in this
Yes.
kind of off-kilter way where he's trying to suggest that he's not as suspicious of Silver as he actually is.
And like
Because he doesn't
it's
say anything about like, beware a cyborg. He's just like, I ran into this weird guy, Bones. But
and
he fully trusts that this is the guy that Bones was trying to warn him about, or is at least trying to suss it out.
oh
And
yeah.
and if he's ever if he's ever convinced that Silver is not that guy, it's because he knows he's lying to himself a little bit
Yes.
to try to make
He's
himself feel better.
It's like because he knows he hasn't like fully betrayed him yet, he's like, oh, but like there's the potential for you to be the guy I want you to be the whole time. And there's that tension with the two of them. But like when they're actually like bonding and talking together, it's like it's earnest. It's some of the like sweetest interactions that also like it's not, syrup sweet. Like the advice that he gives to Jim is earnest advice that is also tough advice. Like he's hard on him.
It's very
It
masculinized
is, but
advice. It's like, learn where to pick your battles is like one of the first things that Silver really
yes.
puts onto Jim. And so it's a piece of advice that comes from a place of care, but also sounds like a threat,
Yes, and some that
which is perfect for the line that this character is trying to walk.
you're constantly doubting his intentions. And like it complements too the fact that like Silver's one of those guys who you can tell the animators loved animating, like specifically his
Yeah.
facial expressions. And Brian Murray's vocal performance is just, oh my God. Like I do not know why this is not constantly brought up as one of the better like animated voice performances out there because truly and honestly, it is up there for me. He is able to do this like he's this very likable scoundrel who has a legitimate dark side to him, but also when he relents and shows the sensitivity, it's just like this is the portrait of a guy who never decided who he was. He was a guy who just let life whisk him away, and now he's where he is, and he's like, I might as well get this one thing because I'm close to it, and then I can go and finally be the best version of myself. Despite the fact that he is like a facsimile of just ambition and all of these things wrapped up together. And then Jim throws a wrench in that by appearing, and he's just like, I do actually genuinely give a shit about this kid. And he, his loyalty gets pulled around. He doesn't really know how to feel, and you don't really know how to feel about him. And as a result, it means that not only do you have like one of the most genuinely complex Disney characters, not just like villains, because I mean, it's kind of difficult to identify him purely as one, but also that means that it's reflected with Jim, who is equally as interesting of a protagonist, who has way more going on than I feel like most garden variety protagonists do. Like, honestly, I put this in the same place that I put, like, the dynamic between Nani and Lilo and Stitch as being like, it's a very complicated dynamic that has a very thorny resolution in the film. And it does in this too. But I love that Jim is like, you can tell just by the Joseph Gordon-Levitt performance, by the way he looks, it's like, the angsty teenager. It's a perfect little like every 10-year-old is gonna see him and be like, oh, he's so cool. I want to surf on the fucking flying surfboard too. And naturally, yes, also I mean I probably had a little bit of a crush. I just didn't really know it back then, but say la vie. But that sort of like his willingness to put up with the potential danger that Silver puts him in, it really does just be like he's one of the few protagonists like this who's like on the younger side, who really feels like he has an active agency in not just like what he's looking for, but what he wants as a person. Like he truly like Treasure Planet, getting there and get solving the objective. Like that would be cool and everything, and it would be awesome for him and his family. But at the same time, if he goes home and he just goes home with with a Silver like as a compatriot or just that life experience, he's probably going home more or less satisfied. But he wants a little bit extra out of life. He wants to take things a little bit further. And it's kind of like he's taking advice from Silver because he knows he'll tell him what he wants to hear. And that, like, oh, yeah, this guy who's been this dude who's this pirate and he's going to pursue treasure exactly like I want to do so I can get away from home. And so he'll, give him this advice that will let him fulfill his fantasy of being like a pirate and an adventurer. But he doesn't tell him that. He tells him some advice that's, again, it's a little bit more masculinized and complicated and just like it's about dealing with real, actual problems instead of dealing with like big, grand aspirations. And what makes this such a deceptively amazing coming of age story.
It emphasizes the danger in a lot of the interactions between the characters because Silver is telling Jim like, yeah, these guys will kill you
They
in
will
a second.
murder the shit out of you.
The like these guys don't mess with them. Like when he's trying to protect him basically from Scroop by saying just like, listen, keep your head down, just sweep the
There are
floor.
people you don't fuck with.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I find so interesting is that Jim wants to find danger, right?
Yes.
He knows what he's doing. He knows the risk that he's taking when he brings up Billy Bones in front of Jim, but he's also testing him. It's not just like a flirting with danger, but it's a test of Silver's morale, and it's Jim feeling that out, and as a narrative, the narrative challenging Silver as well. But one of my favorite exchanges that they have in the movie is when Jim is asking him about his cybernetics,
Hmm.
and Silver just says this line or Jim just asks, "Was it worth it?" And
Oh, it's
Silver,
such a good moment.
yeah,
God.
like, was it worth whatever happened to you that led you to get these things on your body? And he was just like, I don't know, but I'm still alive. Like that's
Yeah.
basically the sentiment of it is like, I don't know if it was worth it, but I'm doing my best to live with it.
And it's what makes the third act of this movie so compelling is because you are rooting for the best version of both Jim and Silver to win out. And the movie does a good job at making you believe that either of them could really go either way. Like I could, like just based on what it gives you, it's like you could see Jim like completely abandoning his previous life path to just pursue this life of adventure where he would maybe even potentially abandon his family or just, be a little bit more like Silver. Or it could be doing things for the greater good or just living within his means or just finding this and then taking it back home. But at the same time, you know that the relationship between the two of them is just like, it's so faulty and tenuous that it's like, it can't really last, can it? And when they find themselves at odds, it's like, ah, damn, I wanted you all to be able to work this out. And so that ensuing conflict, you're just kind of like, I just want you guys to see eye to eye. And there is like a really compelling dramatic push and pull the more they figure out and, discover Treasure Planet and how to solve the little puzzle with the map and navigation that they've been given. Is then they've also lost so much too. They had their previous captain get fucking murdered fairly fucking brutally, might I add. Which like again, it's like that
Oh yeah,
one.
when the first mate gets knocked off the boat.
Yep, it's like that one dude who dies in Atlantis when like he gets covered in that like crystalline thing and then just falls and gets sliced into a million pieces and you're like, "Oh, I didn't know Disney knew ball like that." Oh
Yeah,
shit.
you see this guy just like fade into a black hole. Like he's
It's
gone.
it's actually like a little bit like, oh, that's a little existential in a way I don't like. I don't want to imagine turning into spaghetti that way. I don't want it. It's bad. But the thing is that what it does is that what kind of cemented my love for the movie is how it resolves. Because like I was like I didn't really remember how this movie ended. And I was like, what does happen to Silver? Does like he end up sacrificing himself and dying for Jim? Because that feels like where the movie's going. That
Yeah, like
really
if you're
feels like
watching this
where it's pushing.
movie, if you're watching this movie and you have part of your brain turned on, you're like, oh, this dude is dead as a
Yeah.
doorstep.
He is a walking redemption arc that ends with his sacrifice. It's like it's so obvious. But they don't do that. They end up doing something way smarter and way better in that they don't resolve Silver's character conflict because that's who he is. He's not the kind of person who lives by a specific creed or because of any specific thing of character development. He goes where he's called. He is the purest essence of being a pirate, and that's taking the good with the bad a little bit. And he and Jim have this final interaction between each other that's just like one of my favorite scenes in like film, honestly, just because the way they have to, part ways essentially and just accept that they are who they are and they got each other here, but it can't go any further than this. And it's like, the part of me that is permanently imbued with daddy issues, it's ripping into my chest. It hurts a little bit. I won't
It's an
lie.
extremely bittersweet movie that leads to a more complex conclusion than I was initially expecting. That is honestly wrapped up a little bit too nicely with the whole like Jim is going to go off and join the military now
Yeah,
stuff.
I can see it.
But it's one line at the end of the movie. It doesn't actually bother me all that much, but it's just one of those things where it's like, and then Jim is going to live a long, happy life and never do anything bad or ever be in trouble again. And it's like, I know
I
better than
don't
that.
think
I know
that
better than that.
I think maybe he might get court-martialed a little bit, maybe a tiny bit, once or twice. Who who knows?
Or
But it's
lead
like it's
to a
a
court martial against
believable.
somebody else.
What now?
He's going to cause somebody else to get court-martialed more likely
You know what?
down the line.
Probably.
Anyway, but I really do love this movie. What I want to is something else I want to compliment on this is the score, the James Newton Howard
Mm,
music in this.
it
The
really
ten
is as good as I remember, man.
the tenderness of the music from the very beginning in those scenes with Jim and Silver really helps the movie nail the tone of their relationship because you
Uh-huh.
feel both of them like cloying for sentiment with the
Yes.
way the music will like lilt in between their
Hmm.
lines of dialogue. Like
They're
it's less
fishing.
there, yeah, there's not as much tension feels like the wrong way to describe it.
Hmm.
It's a desperation for a genuine connection between the two of them, but it's guarded, it's reserved, not just the relationship itself, but the way that the music is handled and paced and sequenced in those scenes.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
it's so perfect.
It is listened to it and remembered why it had the impact on me that it did. Same thing with the John Rzeznik songs, which I think are glorious. Like I think that I'm Still Here is legitimately like a perfect pop song. It's so fucking good. I do
That
not give
dude,
a single fuck,
man,
man.
Rzeznik really knew what he was doing back in the day, huh?
I fucking like we need to like do a classic album review for like Dizzy Up the Girl or something because like the Goo Goo Dolls were kind of goated honestly, and I feel like we do not talk about that nearly enough. Like how we cheated him out of an Oscar for Iris, I will never know. But regardless, he adds an indelible quality to the rest of this movie that is just so singular. It's this thing that could have only been made at this time after these guys were just so successful that the studio had no choice but to give them what they wanted. And like I have a real appreciation for Musker and Clements as kind of like the sort of B tier kind of all stars of this era of Disney. Because like Little Mermaid, great movie. I did not appreciate how good of a movie that was growing up, honestly. Probably because I was old enough to realize that the discourse around it's like, oh, is Ariel kind of a fucking poorly written character? Is this movie misogynistic? And now I watch it and I'm just like, what the fuck are people talking about? Ariel's cool. I don't fucking know. And The Great Mouse Detective is an awesome Sherlock Holmes adaptation. I think that Aladdin is fantastic. Hercules isn't very good, but my God, it's fucking weird, and nothing else is anything like it. So I
Yeah,
agree with you on
they ain't
that
no movie
level.
out there like Hercules.
No, but Treasure Planet is kind of where, I mean, not to make a joke, but all the stars do kind of align with all of their sensibilities of just this incredibly ambitious 3D integration of animation that, honest to God, still holds up in the way that movies like Tarzan hold up. In that whenever you have the 3D sequence, it's like it's kind of obvious that it's there, but it never stops it from looking aesthetically uniform and just awesome. Like the aesthetic of this movie has lived in my head. Like there is going to be one of these days where I write something and I'm going to try to make what people envision look like Treasure Planet because I am just in love with the movie's aesthetic so much. It's just one of those things, man. I have I've grown in my appreciation for a lot of Disney films over the years. Like I know Alice in Wonderland was one I always loved, and now I'm like, that's a goated ass movie. I
You know
love
what I
that
watched?
fucking
I watched
movie.
one for Hooptober last year. I watched The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Underrated as fuck, honestly. Such a charming, like really atmospheric movie. I love the way that movie looks. Like just
Yeah, the
so
Ichabod
pretty.
Crane stuff is all I'm getting chills
Gothic
just
as
thinking about
fuck.
I'm getting
It's
chills just thinking about some of that Headless Horseman animation. But back to this. This is gonna sound mean and I hate to say it like this, but I really don't like when this really starts to feel like a Disney movie at a couple parts of it.
it's when Martin Short pops up, isn't it?
I hate Martin Short.
I understand. He's not my favorite part either.
I hate Martin Short, and all these Disney Renaissance movies have this because this is after Aladdin, and so
Yep.
it was
And
all like we
there
gotta
had to be
get
the comic
our.
relief sidekick character, and there had to be another one too somewhere in there. And sometimes there were three if you were Pocahontas. Actually,
I
I
was
think
gonna
that one
say, I
has
mean,
four.
to be fair, on the tier list of like bad Disney movie sidekicks of the era, it does at least clear Jason Alexander, but only
Definitely.
a little bit
I would say
because
I
the
put Martin Short
movie.
in the same tier as Mushu in that I don't think they weigh their respective movies down, but I would think more of them if they were removed. You know?
Yeah, like the movie grinds to a halt when Ben gets introduced just because they spend so long riffing.
And you do like the moment you see that like he's got the plate missing from his head, you're like, oh, I know where we're going with this. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get. He's like, he's the insane guy who's going to lead us to the treasure. Like, yeah, okay, gotcha, cool, all right, can we move along, please? But yeah,
And
that's
there's something to I'm much more favorable to it, but I'm Still Here does kind of come out of nowhere. And
I, I love the
don't get me
song too
wrong.
much to care.
It's a great song and it's a really good montage
It
and
is.
it's
I
a
really
great
like it.
song, but it makes me wish that this was a traditional musical almost.
Huh?
It's kind of
Would be interesting.
it's this really strange moment of one foot in where I could really imagine Jim Hawkins having a big I Want song and then that just be it. And then the
Hmm.
rest of the movie be a traditional movie. And as such, I'm Still Here feels a little bit detached from what the movie is actually doing in a way that's a little bit tonally dissonant, but it's a good scene. It does what it needs to do to get the narrative. So I don't want to rag on it too much. I'm not even ragging on it, really. I think I'm frozen.
You are, and I won't lie,
I'm
it's kind
frozen.
of unflattering.
I'm not even really complaining about it. It's just kind of weird.
You just have something. I mean, like it's just sometimes you got to be able to say everything, and not everything's going to be super flattering. So you know.
But no, I like it. I do like the moment. It's just weird in a way that I don't think I was prepared for, which is really my testament to this whole movie, is that it's weird in ways that I wasn't prepared for. And my only main issue with it is the Martin Short character, because that's where it becomes like less weird
Well,
and unique. It
the
becomes less
studio
its own
executive's
thing.
normal Disney movie, like it's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
it becomes a normal Disney movie, which is not what I expect or want this to be.
because for
Um,
90% of it, it isn't one.
Yeah, even I'm Still Here is a bridging between, normal Disney movie stuff for the time and what Musker and Clements actually want to be doing. And the Martin Short thing just feels like, you gotta have a goofy little guy in there, and it just completely ruins the
Which
pacing of that
is
scene where it
is
should be
totally
like,
offset by the fact that they already have Morph, and I love Morph. He's just a cute little fucker flying around. Why
yeah,
is he
Morph
not
is
good
great
enough?
because you can do cute little visual gags and he doesn't talk. It's not,
Yeah.
Aquafina.
Uh, man, that's
Which I'm not gonna lie to you. I just watched I went to the theater to see The Sheep Detectives, which is a great movie that everyone
I
should
have
go
heard
see.
exclusively great things about the Sheep Detective.
Everyone needs to go watch The Sheep Detectives because it's a family whodunit that treats the audience like they're smart and is also really, really funny and really charming and really cute movie.
Okay.
But every trailer before that movie made me despair for the state
Oh,
of things. It's like
yeah, it's that's
I
why.
watched I watched the trailer for the new Minions movie, and seeing
Oh,
Martin Short is like, ah, yeah, that's the future that this specific thing ended up giving us, and that's a net negative. And this is just, it's not like that this was a popular movie or that this pioneered it. So this is a
no.
symptom and not the cause, but it's still a negative quality on this movie. It's only real negative quality in my mind is that one little scene where it's just Ben and Jim. I'm just like, can we just get back to what the movie is doing, please?
It's I think another reason why I picked this is because it's from an era where Disney was still not afraid to take risks. And I mean, like, again, with movies like Hercules, they don't always pan out. Sometimes they are like complete messes, but like I miss it when failures were messes like that. Rather than like failures from the Disney company these days are movies that nobody cares about. Like I would prefer the failure of a movie like Hercules to the failure of a movie like Wish 10 out of 10 times because of course I would. Like it's a more interesting film top to bottom and is wanting to do interesting things and has potential to go interesting places. And hell, the fucking TV series of Hercules is actually very good even if it was made for the budget of a ham sandwich. But it's just a relic from when things were a bit less like restrained, when there was just a little bit more freedom and you had some voices who were able to, rise through the ranks and really make themselves known. Like this era is so defined by Musker, Clements, and specifically Alan Menken too, but like obviously not here, but like this
Yeah.
era specifically defined by like his contributions to the music and everything. And it's like, I don't really feel like we've had those like creative heads in that same
We
surplus. It's like,
haven't. We haven't in a long time. Not even, I mean, Pixar has always run itself differently, but Pixar doesn't even really have that
yeah, it's
anymore, where
like
it's like
Andrew Stanton, I
there's
guess.
nobody there's nobody at Disney right now in any of their main studios that they own, which is, all of them who I'm like, yeah, that's a guy
Yeah.
that's doing interesting work. Dave Filoni, that's a guy who's really got ideas.
Yeah, The Mandalorian and Grogu coming to a theater near you.
I've also just been thinking about like I'm walking through the theater the other day again to go see The Sheep Detectives, and I'm seeing I saw the poster for Toy Story 5, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's happening.
Yep.
And
And
I can't believe I feel that way. Like I know I'm an adult now and I've grown up a lot, and that's obviously part of it. I don't mean to get old and blame my knowledge of politics on Mario not being as good anymore, but like two things can be true.
no, I mean, like, I don't feel like we have to live in the world. Like, it's why I mean, Musker and Clements are still in the employ of Disney. They made Moana. They held on to them because they were like, you guys still work, right? Right? And, like, I mean, yeah, but, like, we can't rely on the creative ambition of Pete Docter and no one else, or hope that the new Brad Bird movie is gonna be really good, which it probably will be. But like again, it's like we keep having to rely on outsiders so much when it's like you guys were pushing the form before. What the fuck happened? Like Studio Ghibli literally like fucking Miyazaki's retired 5 times and they're still cleaning your fucking clock. What gives? Do something. Ah! But
Yeah, there's so many. I love learning more about guys like Musker and Clements because there's so many Disney movies that have come out, frankly, around the time that these guys stopped making movies regularly that are just made by some guy or the guy that made
Strange
Frozen.
World,
Yeah, it's either made by
everybody's
some
favorite.
guy that they hired off a Marvel script or hired off an indie movie,
Yeah.
or it's made by the guys that made Frozen.
So
Like,
that, and it's not even like, oh, this is their Ryan Coogler moment where they get to, bring their ambition to life with a studio budget. It's like, no, it's a stepping stone so that they can actually make what they want later and not now. Because
when
that's what everything is now. Everything is Black Panther 2, where it's like, yeah, you can sprinkle in some personality, but you can't divert too far from the formula or anything.
No, yeah, you're right. That makes me so sad because I'm thinking about the one that always hurt me the most. The one that pissed me off more than anything was Raya and the Last Dragon when they got
I never saw that,
Carlos
but I
Lopez Estrada fresh off of Blind Spotting,
ugh.
shacked him up with Don Hall, the guy the master behind Big Hero 6, and said, "Make a movie," and that's what we got out of it. And I remember that movie more for Lindsay Ellis and what happened to her after it came out than
Oh,
anything.
most normal YouTuber drama. Ugh, I do
Ugh.
not miss that era of giving a shit about those things, which I never did. But Lord
And
Jesus, but
it's been so interesting to like grow up as a critic and see the way that like people my age have tried to apply young, hot, critical fire to stuff like Encanto.
yeah, it's like, what
And
do
I'm
you
just like, wait, it's
even?
not the same. It's not the same anymore.
It's like a artisanal food critic reviewing McDonald's. It's like, what are we really hoping to get out of this at the end of the day, guys?
And like, don't get me wrong, you can make interesting reviews of McDonald's, but at some point, these guys were not like this was cream of the crop. This was top of the line stuff that we're
This
talking about. Like Musker and Clements
this is
was making stuff
the
that,
studio. The
yeah,
studio.
Musker and Clements were making movies, including this one, that nobody had the weight to make. But now, like, Disney isn't special.
Can you imagine, viewers, Jen, anybody, can you even fathom the Disney Corporation making a movie like Bambi or Fantasia today? It would never happen. Those are
Can you even
borderline
imagine?
experimental art films now.
Can you even imagine making a movie like this, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna adapt a classic novel into
No,
a animated movie?
no.
No.
No, and even if it was, it would be loosely based so that they could, to kind of put in whatever. And I didn't mean for this to turn to a just dogging on the Disney Corporation, but like, I mean, look, I pick my battles, and Disney is a battle worth fighting sometimes, but it really
We've
is
we've
like,
revisited stuff. We've revisited stuff from Disney on this show that has
oh
made
yeah,
me like weep for the state of the company and the
right. I mean,
quality
again,
that they
Tron.
let slip.
Tron is a fantastic example of taking a risk on some stuff that ended up being like super fucking cool and unique and awesome and like well regarded and a staple of science fiction cinema to this day. And it's like, I don't know, when the last time this company had a cultural footprint was Frozen, and that was really just because it was so successful. It was just by brute force that it made a cultural impact, less because it was something worth admiring. And I
Yeah,
think that Treasure
even
Planet is
Frozen,
deeply worth admiring.
Even Frozen is just like chasing that 90s pastiche and it does it
Yes,
well. It's a
it
very good movie that's evoking the Disney Renaissance era, but we're not doing anything
and
new and we haven't for a
and
long
even then,
time.
I vastly prefer the much stranger sequel to that movie because it is the much stranger sequel. Like, I think it's cool that a Disney movie tried to be Annihilation, kind of.
I can't. The first time somebody said that to me, it's just like, yo, Frozen 2 is a little bit like Annihilation. I was like, what the
And then the second
hell
half
are you
comes and you're
talking
like, oh
about?
God, yeah, it actually low key. Damn. All right. And I
That
just,
got me to watch that movie.
yeah, I know. Same thing. I was just like, I read that review and I knew that Rhiannon liked it. So I was just like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And I was like, wow, I actually really preferred that one. So, I mean, I guess that'll is what I'll count as their last shining moment for me, I suppose, which still not the best indicator. I don't even know what they're doing these days. Are they making
It's been
something
it's
different? They making
been
something new? I don't know. Another
it's
sequel
been a
probably.
while since I felt the range of possibility expand for
Yeah.
Disney as a whole. And this movie is a moment where that could have happened. I mean, it did. It's an example of the possibility expanding.
And I mean, and I hate to do this just because it's vastly unfair, but think about a movie like Wish coming out, which is supposed to be like this movie that celebrates the anniversary of Disney and is supposed to be emblematic of all of this, like this point in history at which they've become something and whatever. And it ends up having like no sway whatsoever. And meanwhile, over across the ocean in the land to the east, Studio Ghibli is putting out movies like fucking The Boy and the Heron, which is like this deeply meditative, reflective journey about creativity and artistry and storytelling. And it's this mature, thoughtful movie that like I could, see that movie and it's like there are a bunch of kids in here and a bunch of 40-year-olds. And it's like, guys,
I felt the product of the growth of an artist
yes,
happening when I saw The Boy and the Heron in the theater. And just because of the way that they've been running things, I haven't felt like I've been really in touch with any artist that works for them in a long time, aside from Dave Filoni. I know what he's about, back to front. Um,
another Darth Maul show. Great.
all right, but I loved this movie. I really, really did. I'm so glad that you got to show me this.
Another convert. I win
Because of
again.
Martin Short, it gets a 4.
I will not lie to you. The moment I figured I was going to recommend this, I knew that would be the Achilles heel. I was just like, yeah, it's
I'm jaded. I'm cynical. I can't stand when
and
this
I
movie starts screaming at me
and
like
I
that.
can't blame you. I really can't. As somebody who also recently watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame for the first time in years and was like, God, the parts of this movie that are great are my favorite fucking thing this company ever made. And the parts of this movie that aren't great, I really wish weren't here.
So that means,
Jen,
so that means
Jen, you did it.
Jen
Oh,
wins.
Jen!
Oh, so weight off my shoulders. Let's spin. My redemption arc is complete. I
The
went full
vengeance
I
arc
went
is
full
complete.
heel with the 1-2 punch of Ghostbusters and Clarice, I feel in it.
I feel like,
I made a lot of mean decisions in this arc, only one of
oh, you
which did
did.
not work out for me, but it was the one right at the beginning. So I realized that I had to commit to being meaner, faster,
Yeah, fair enough.
and I think it works.
Uh, my my wife sent me
Say it,
many
Rhiannon.
tomatoes, many tomatoes to
Oh,
throw
you
at
know
you.
what? You're allowed to feel that way.
All right, Jen, lay it on me. What am I getting?
So I don't think you realized how vulnerable you made yourself when we didn't record this last week. For my very special episode of the show, I have two great choices for you. One bad, one good. I'm keeping it even because this could be a time where I could seek brutal revenge and get away with it but just know I'm doing you the mercy of also giving you something very precious to me.
Hmm.
We have two trilogies that we need to discuss.
I'm listening.
And just know that I'm only doing this one because sometimes you only get one shot and you can't miss your chance to
Chance to
blow.
blow. This
So
opportunity comes once in a
this
lifetime.
opportunity comes in a life once in a lifetime,
Yo.
and I can't not do it. And just take solidarity in the fact that we're going to be doing it together.
Okay.
We have to do the Iceman trilogy.
The Iceman trilogy. Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh, no. Oh, come on.
It
Oh,
just came out, Jake. Do
uh,
you realize how perfect of an opportunity that this is for us? For me.
uh,
This is my ultimate punishment, Jake, is to do the obvious thing that I know is going to make us both miserable. Because come on, I've never been in this position. I've never had the chance to get revenge like this. And the thing that I'm choosing is the thing that maybe you might have even thought I was above doing.
well, if I didn't think you were above it before, I definitely don't think you're above it now. And
But
here I
there's
was
another
when you said
trilogy,
Iceman, I was like, Bobby from the X-Men?
the
He doesn't have
Iceman.
a
We're gonna
movie?
read a solo Iceman comic book run. Maybe those are good. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. But the other, the other trilogy that we're gonna talk about in my very special episode is
Oh my God, you froze. The internet said, nah, bitch. Fuck you.
some of my favorite.
Oh, well, some of your favorite, but what? Tell me.
We are gonna read a trilogy of horror novels, which have become some of my favorite books of the past few
Ooh,
years.
ooh, okay. What
And
are we doing?
you and I have a lot of thoughts about the Scream movies. Yes?
Yes, we do.
My good pick for this is a trilogy of horror novels that have become some of my favorite books of the past few years in general. And you and I are we're big thinkers about the Scream movies. I
We
almost said
are.
big fans, but you're more of a big thinker about them, and I'm probably more of a thinker about them than I am a fan of them at this point. My pitch to you is that these books are like the Scream that this generation needs.
Oh, okay. All right.
That really take a lot of the framework that made Scream special for its time period and everything that these books do make it a perfect answer to what do horror novels need out of a Scream of today? And what do horror movies need about a Scream of today? Because the main character of these books is a horror movie aficionado. And so there's a lot of,
Horror literacy?
yeah, there's a lot of horror literacy on display across these books. But they also have some of my favorite prose of any book of its kind by one of my favorite authors working today. We are going to read the Indian Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. Have you read a Stephen Graham Jones before?
I do not believe that I have.
Okay.
Proof
I'm
Rock,
really
Idaho.
excited.
Hell yeah, brother.
I'm really excited for how you feel about this because I got onto him through one of his books that is not one of these trilogy, but I own all these. I love them so much. We're gonna read all of them together. We got
Okay.
My Heart is a Chainsaw, Don't Fear the Reaper, and The Angel of Indian Lake.
My Heart is a Chainsaw is so fucking sick of a title. That's so sick as fuck. Okay. Uh, it's so funny that you recommended me such a horrifying experience and some books. I'm never gonna forget this. I just hope you know this this course of action, it will come back.
I'm
I
sure it will.
always come back. This eye patch, I'm gonna keep it up my bedside table and it's gonna talk to me like fucking the Green Goblin mask to Willem Dafoe. And I'm gonna be waiting. I'm gonna be waiting, making me listen to Drake music in the year of our Lord. Jesus Christ.
Next time on Jen and Jake's Bizarre Affray, Jen's victory lap sees them teaming up with the Iceman to freeze Jake in the shores of Indian Lake. That was kind of bad, actually.
That was kind of funny, I thought. Oh God, 18 songs on Iceman? How many on this? 11. Okay, that one's 37 minutes. That's not too bad. Then 45 minutes. Oh God, that's fucking 2 hours. Ah. What did I miss? I don't know. The fucking point, apparently.
That's a good cutoff.